3, 4, 2.
What's going on, guys? Black Scout Survival. And before we get into today's video, let's see how your tax money is working with the Ukrainians over there in the war. Let me show you real quick.
Давай попробуем. А де вона ділась? Ёб твою мать. Що случилось?
Do they just like drop these weapons off over there and not train them? I mean, that's like $5 grand last time I remember, just thrown in the trash. But looks like the Russians really don't have to do anything. They just can just let them take themselves out. But you guys probably heard Millie, the Treasonous General. He has retired, former Green Beret Special Operations guy. And he's the one that called China and said that he would take out Trump or something like that to essentially protect China right there at the end. But now he had to retire because it was the end of his duration of service. But he could not wait to take a shot at Donald Trump. He used his time for that. He said that Trump was a wannabe dictator during his speech at Arlington, Virginia. Millie said that the U.S. Armed Forces, we don't take an oath to the we don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. He says, we don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that it is America and we're willing to die to protect it. Now, it's funny because Trump's the one who appointed him in 2019. One of the many bad selections Trump's made. Trump, hopefully he works on his discernment abilities if he makes it back in the White House again. So anyway, let's get to the Navy SEALs. So there's been a massive change going on within the SEAL teams. And so basically what they're doing is randomly testing Navy SEALs for steroid or performance-enhancing drugs. They will begin randomly testing their special operations for steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs beginning in November, taking a groundbreaking step that the military leaders have long resisted. Rear Admiral Davids, the commander of the Naval Special Warfare Command, announced the new program Friday in a message to his force, calling it necessary to protect their health and military readiness. The Navy will be the first to begin random testing, but Army Special Operations Command said it will soon follow suit, although there's no start date on them. Testing, you have to understand, is highly specialized for anabolic steroids or performance-enhancing drugs and very costly. It requires contracting there's only a few labs that actually do this. So the Air Force and the Marine Corps Special Operations Command said they will not make a policy change for that. They will not test for steroids or performance-enhancing drugs. Just the Navy and soon to be Green Berets. So according to the Navy Command, 4 units will be randomly selected each month, and 15% of each will be tested. That will amount to as many as 200 sailors monthly, and those testing positive will face discipline or removal. So if you test positive, you lose your trident, or if you're a SWIC, you'll lose your SWIC pin, and you get removed. So you have to understand that they're saying they're doing this, and this is wild. They're doing this because a SEAL candidate died about a year ago from an enlarged heart 24 hours after he finished Hell Week. You probably heard about this. They really started putting SEAL training under a microscope, BUDS UDT program. But now get this, he didn't test positive for steroids. They tested him for steroids. He did not test positive. But they're using this, like they do everything else, to now test him for steroids for precaution of safety. It's always safety that they're going to start testing. And so you have to ask yourself, what will it cost you, the taxpayer? The Navy has provided $250,000 to fund the testing contract at the end of this month. And it's expected to cost about $4.5 million per year for the next 2 years. So you're looking at $9 million and to start testing this for the first 2 years. So $4.5 million a year to test. That money could very well be spent somewhere else, enhancing the readiness, equipment, a lot of different things. But they're using it to try to reduce the SEAL teams, in my opinion. That's what's going to happen. So between February 2022 and March 2023, the Navy Special Warfare Center conducted more than 2,500 screening tests and detected 74 SEAL and SWCC, that's Special Warfare Combat Crewmen, if you didn't know. That's the people who drive in the boats, with elevated testosterone levels. The command said that 3 candidates ultimately tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. So you may ask yourself, how abundant is it? Well, it's actually very, very abundant. If you recall, Eddie Gallagher, I'll throw him up here. Eddie Gallagher, who was looking at prison, former SEAL. He was a Navy corpsman before and became a SEAL. But during his investigation, they found anabolic steroids in his gear locker on base. Okay, that was part of the whenever they were investigating him, that's what they found was anabolic steroids. If you guys know Dan Bilzerian, the famous Instagram influencer, he owns I think a CBD company or vape company now. He and is a former poker player. He went through SEAL training twice. Okay, I'm gonna put up this video and just you can hear him discuss it.
I do not know other people personally that have muled steroids across the Mexican border.
Oh, see, to
for SEAL training.
I would have rated that as like one of the least crazy.
You're kidding me, man. Okay, can you tell the story?
Yeah, I mean, wait.
So during his SEAL trainings, when he began using steroids, and he said they would go down across the border and get them from Mexico.
I was paying a buddy to bring steroids across the border for me, and I wanted to save like $150. So we decided we'd all go down there and stick them up our ass, and then walk across or actually drive across the border. We had been walking before, but I figured driving would be better. And man, that was unpleasant.
You said your buddy got out of the car and it was like projectile.
He just blasted a shit right in a Goodyear parking lot, broad daylight, just fucking laid the snake. And I was just like, God damn. And then he had to go through his shit and pick it up. And then he's in the car. I mean, it was just, you read the fucking thing.
Yeah, that's crazy. But you did. No, I have a question for you. How many guys, you had been rolled back first time in SEAL training. This is during SEAL training.
Okay, so no, this was the second time I went. I hadn't been rolled back yet. So the first time I went through El Natural. I didn't really know that people were juicing. And then when they kicked me out after Hell Week, I was like, well, fuck these motherfuckers, I just really didn't have a lot to lose.
Yeah.
Because before there was always like the threat of getting kicked out of training. If you went down to, if you were just in Mexico, like forget about steroids, like if you were just down there, you were going to be kicked out of training. So the first time it wasn't really a consideration. And then, like I said, when I got rolled and then kicked out after Hell Week, and my body was like so broken down, I was like, oh, fuck it. What have I got to lose? I'm going to go do it. And so I did that. And then as I was waiting to get processed out of the Navy, I'd been juicing then too, and like training and this and that. So then the second time I went through, I was gung ho on it.
Yeah. Would you say other guys were doing that though?
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of other guys.
Well, I went down there with a bunch of other guys.
Yeah. Okay.
So that went back. So yes.
So the idea that guys were taking roids during SEAL training is that's something that was new to me. I had no idea.
I didn't either until, I went in but I think it's true of a lot of like special forces. I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, you're training, you're doing crazy shit. It's high adrenaline. It's, it's risky profession. So, I mean, people that are less risk averse and that are in those things and also like really care about fitness and like being in good shape and looking good and whatever, like those are all naturally the people that are going to be prone to be juicing the most anyways. And so if you got people that are willing to like go through SEAL training, they're usually pretty ballsy dudes. And it's kind of like the barrier to like trying something like that just goes down with the more, aggressive and crazier the people are. So
in the book, you actually show the heaviest.
So yeah, you hear him. He's telling during his time in training that he and a bunch of other SEAL candidates went down to Mexico pretty regularly to get steroids, and that many guys did, but he did not know that until he got into the program. So it's part of the culture, and from other guys that I know, it's very common, pretty rampant, I guess it'd be better to say. But when you're looking, like he's saying, to have people performing at high levels, just like sports, there's a temptation that's always there for that, and you can argue the point that it does give you, an unfair advantage. And you can see both sides of the coin there. You can see that maybe some guys will make it through that probably shouldn't. And then, they get out into the real operating force and they're not able to operate at that level, or they continue using through their whole career, But again, when you're talking about risking your life, this may be an advantage that you want to have to keep you alive. As far as it from my personal standpoint, I can see both sides of the spectrum. I can see it being an unfair advantage, and then also see the personal freedom of being able to choose whatever you want to do. I've talked about this in depth before. They made things illegal that were not necessarily. They maybe enhance performance. It's just like they're trying to stop NMN and make it a pharmaceutical. Because these steroids are pharmaceuticals. You can get them through a doctor, right? But the problem is them putting it behind a prescription to get more money. So to me, it's kind of nonsense. It's this the government trying to regulate things to make more money for Big Pharma or whoever. But if you're looking at it just from a personal perspective of freedom, you should be able to be free to do whatever you want. And I've talked about this in depth before in many videos where, the whole performance enhancing drugs thing came from Joe Biden back during the Balco scandal in baseball. And, when you got guys that could be making hundreds of millions of dollars and you put something on the table that can help them do better at their job, of course, they're going to probably take that, but again, when you got guys and you're wanting to prepare, and the thing is, they know it's rampant in there. So to me, I think there's a bigger underlying issue, and I would like to hear your thoughts whether you think it should be a personal freedom or do you think it gives you an unfair advantage. Let me know in the comments. But I think ultimately what they're trying to do is weed out a certain type of individual out of special operations community. Now, a few months back, I talked about this article on military.com and militarytimes.com. The future of special operations may look a lot different than the GWAT aesthetic we've come to know global war on terrorism. If you don't know. The days of the burly, here you go. The days of the burly bearded dudes in Oakley's as the face of special operations may change. And what this article goes to talk about, and this is coming from Army Lieutenant Colonel Katie Crum, who's an absolute woke Marxist. I mean, I went into depth on her in my video a few months ago. And what she's wanting to do is to have more equitable, more inclusive special operations, not getting the best guy for the job. She said, there's a place for the door kicker, I said it, but we need people with mindset and creativity. We need people that win the hearts and minds. Okay, no, we need people that are willing to go above and beyond is what we need. We don't need, we're weakening every part of our military. And down to the soldier, the Marine, Airman, sailor, through this Marxist ideology. And so now what they're trying to do is, in my opinion, and they're using this catalyst of testing for performance enhancing drugs, and they may call testosterone, they may call creatine. You don't know where they're going with this because again, there's lots of things outlawed through USADA, and who's saying what's allowed and what's not? Is it just going by what's criminal? What is going to be the gauge for what is allowed and what's not? And if it's legal substances, and they're going to put it, because on USADA, as an athlete, you can't use creatine, right? You can't use, I don't think you can use caffeine. So there's a tons of things on there that if they're going by that from like an Olympic athlete or professional athlete profile, that you're going to try to eliminate. But more importantly, I think is they're trying to weed out a certain type of individual to replace them with someone who shouldn't be in that role for the name of being inclusive, you know. But I would really like to know your thoughts and opinions on this, guys. Whether you think this is a witch hunt to basically dismantle special operations community, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, or is it something more that they're just trying to get people that maybe would not be what we call non-hackers, people that wouldn't typically be able to hack it because, you know, without the performance-enhancing drug. Anyhow, guys, thanks for tuning in, and make sure you comment. Let me know your thoughts on this. I'm really curious to see which way you swing on the pendulum. And we're going to stay frosty, stay strapped, stay dangerous. Take care.